Dan Nawrocki was born March 31st, 1985. I needed to compose myself for a second there. March 31st, 1985 in Mineola, New York. He's the middle son of Kathleen and Michael Nawrocki, with older brother Chris, 3 years his senior, and younger brother Luke, who's 4 years younger. Like every kid from Long Island, Dan quickly moved from his rubber ducky to a disturbing number of stuffed animals around his bed. I'm sure older brother Chris had nothing to do with that or the fact that Dan is screaming here. After overcoming that difficult start, Dan came out of his shell and became enamored with Halloween and superheroes. Now look at this photo here. Mom has 3 boys. She gave them a trampoline and a Superman costume. I'm sure there were no trips to the ER in the Nawrocki household. Dan played baseball, basketball, and volleyball growing up, and he remembers being on the move constantly. Mom and Dad used the old divide and conquer to get the boys around to their various practices and games, and it wasn't long before Dan was off to Chaminade High School. Dan was a very good volleyball player in high school, and actually told me that early on in high school he was probably a better volleyball player than he may have been a basketball player at that point. But to the disappointment of his volleyball coach, he walked away to focus on basketball. As you can see, Dan had grown considerably from middle school to high school, and the Nawrocki family had 3 growing boys. Mom did all the cooking, and the joke in town was that she would visit the butcher shop and people thought she was shopping for 8 or 10, when really she was just feeding Chris, Dan, and Luke. After looking at several Ivy League and Patriot League schools, Dan was lured to Johns Hopkins to play for Bill Nelson, Ed Richardson, and Bob McCone. Now, what do you think that recruiting trip to Hopkins was like for this guy from Long Island? I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I think it was like. Coach Richardson is probably telling Dan exactly what it's going to be like here. Coach McCone is telling him the same story. It's just taken like an hour later to get the story done. And Bill Nelson keeps asking Coach Richardson and Coach McCone to repeat what they're saying because he can't hear a thing that they're saying. Basketball guys know what I'm talking about. Still, Dan came to Johns Hopkins and became a force for Bill Nelson's Blue Jays. He would graduate with more than 1,300 points and 900 rebounds. And he led Johns Hopkins to one of the great seasons in school history as a senior. It was the great friends he made at Hopkins that helped him get through school and relive some of his days as a kid, especially Halloween at PJ's when he donned his Legends of the Hidden Temple outfits as a group there. Dan still gets together with his buddies from Hopkins as often as he can. They do one college football trip every year. This is down at Ole Miss, one of the great tailgating spots in the country. If you're a college football fan, you know that. And of course, as each of them gets married, the weddings turn into impromptu team reunions. He remains active. He picked up boxing 5 or 6 years ago and ran for the NYPD in the 2015 New York City Marathon. Dan is currently an executive at Morgan Stanley, where he has worked for 11 years. Dan and his wife Jacqueline have been married for 2.5 years. Jacqueline also used to work for Morgan Stanley, and she and Dan met, like most people who work at the same company in New York, at a bar in the city. It was just 7 months ago that Dan and Jacqueline welcomed their first child, Ava. Ladies and gentlemen, for induction into the Johns Hopkins Athletic Hall of Fame, Dan Nawrocki.
Thank you, Arnie. I will say I'm a little disappointed that through all of this, you've skipped out on my biggest athletic claim to fame, and how I'm the first college basketball player ever to both airball the free throw and hit the shot clock on the free throw on 2 separate attempts in the same game. And somehow you guys still went through with inducting me into the Hall of Fame, so thank you for that. For anyone who knows me, they know how much this university and this athletic department means to me. I want to thank the Hopkins Athletic Committee for this truly tremendous honor. I'm grateful to be part of such a special class, and I want to congratulate all my fellow inductees. I'd like to begin by thanking my family who's here this evening. My parents, Michael and Kathleen, and my brother Luke. I couldn't be any luckier to have a family as supportive and caring as you guys. Your guidance and support along the journey instilled in me the importance of using basketball to assist into getting to elite university like Johns Hopkins has been one of the best decisions I've ever made, and I cannot thank you enough for this. Also, the support you 3 gave me at my time at Hopkins is something I will never forget as well. From traveling to as many games as possible, which I know is not easy, to always being that soundboard when things got tough. It feels like yesterday when I was in Athletic Director Caller's office to call my dad. letting him know the good news that to start my freshman season, my assist-to-turnover ratio is 1.6. The bad news, Dad, is that 1.6 also happens to be my first semester's GPA. But not to worry, since Hopkins does this pass-fail thing, so there's still a chance I may graduate one day. It doesn't get any better when someone could call his family his best friends, and I'm lucky to have that with you three. I'd like to thank my three coaches, Coach Nelson, Richardson, and McComb. We definitely were not an easy group to handle, and it was definitely a wild ride at times, but we were lucky to have the three of you in our lives, as you always pushed us in your unique ways to bring out the best in us, both on and off the court. It makes me think of my junior season. We played a nail-biter on the road up at Haverford, a game that saw 8 lead changes in the last 2 minutes, that ended with the last-second defensive stop by the Blue Jays to secure the victory. As I was walking off the court in the direction of our team to shake hands, I see Coach Nelson out of the corner of my eye sprinting toward me. I don't think I've ever seen Coach Nelson move that fast if it wasn't a vanilla milkshake, but he gets up to me, he grabs my arm and looks me square in the eyes and says, "Danny, I don't know what just happened there, but did we win that game?" Yes, Coach, we won that game. And as everyone heard here tonight, the teams we played for won a lot of games. But tonight I want to thank you less for the success you three helped bring us on the court, and more for bringing our group together and for the men you helped shape us to become. To the original Coach K, Kevin Cavanaugh, who's here tonight, Kevin, thank you for being a great friend, mentor, boss, and father figure to me of my 4 years at Hopkins. When I think about the best thing that Hopkins ever did for me, there's no question that it was bringing all of my teammates into my life. Lucky for me, I was able to realize how special of a group I was a part of very early on my freshman year. It was when the Hopkins administration made a somewhat controversial decision to not provide the undergraduate students housing between when they had to report back to school for the respective sports and when intersession officially began. To be expected, many of the winter sport teams and their parents complained excessively, not men's basketball. Luckily, I was a part of a team that always worked together as one, and we quickly learned that if we all pulled together all of our Borgata Casino reward points, we could stay for free in one of Atlantic City's most luxurious casinos, just a short 2-hour drive from Baltimore. Making the best of any situation thrown our way is what makes this group so special. For those that are curious, what happened those next 3 nights? Our team went 2-0. We all were well versed to never split tens at the blackjack table, and the dangers of what a 24/7 all-you-can-eat casino buffet will have in a college athlete's physique. For as much fun as we had off the court, we always pride ourselves in taking care of business on the court and in the classroom. One of my favorite Hopkins memories was my senior year. Our team was nationally ranked, first place and undefeated in the Centennial Conference, and had the second highest GPA among all athletic teams. It was during this time that Coach Nelson got word that his team was having a little too much fun participating at Thirsty Thursday college nights downtown at the power plant. Like any normal coach would do, Coach Nelson decided to not only start Thursday night practices an hour later, but also extended them by an hour, hoping to derail any Thursday evening plans. At the conclusion of that first Thursday late night practice, all the coaches were shocked and stunned as our team exited practice and walked down the steps in the direction of the weight room. What wouldn't have shocked anyone was that we were actually making our way toward the sauna room, where we had 3 cases of beer on ice waiting for us to make up for that valuable lost pregame time. For those that are wondering, that team that season never lost a Saturday game. Jokes aside, yes, we played on some very successful teams, but at the end of the day, all that takes a backseat to the friendships and bonds that our group currently has together. I am very lucky to have all of you guys in my life. I know that Coach Loeffler and some of the current team members are here this evening, and I just want to say on behalf of all the men's basketball alums, how proud we are for the season you guys just had, and for how excited we are for what's to come. About 5 years ago, I had a first date in New York City. When I told the girl that I was out with I played basketball at Hopkins, she responded by saying, "I didn't know that Johns Hopkins had a men's basketball team." I sat there steaming for the rest of the evening, asking myself how I'm going to make her pay for that comment. 3 years later, I got my payback when she agreed to marry me. I'd like to thank my beautiful wife, Jacqueline. We heard about the amazing teammates I've been surrounded by, but you've been the ultimate teammate to me and to our family. And the biggest thank you for bringing our beautiful daughter, Ava, into this world. Doctors are already estimating that she's going to be north of 6'2", that she will one day have the opportunity to carry on the Hopkins athletic tradition. In closing, over the last 11 years, I've tried to give back to Hopkins in any way that I can for all that the university has done for me and for my life. There's still a lot of work to do on my end, but to all the members of the university and athletic department who are here this evening, I want to say thank you. Thank you for making Johns Hopkins one of the most elite institutions in the world, both in the classroom and within college athletics. It is an honor to call myself an alumnus of this university. Thank you very much.